Alright, welcome back into another episode of Raudeza Plays. I'm Raudeza, and unfortunately we're doing this on Xbox, so it's not going to be in real time, guys. Not like Ghost Recon, which, by the way, was pretty awesome. So, I have to say, if you have not played Ghost Recon before, and this is the first time into the entry of Wildlands, then definitely pick it up. The updates for the 4K and the 60 FPS is really worth it. It's a very beautiful looking game. It was 10 years ago, and these graphics for more modern consoles really kind of like give it a fresh repaint, so to speak, and definitely looks good in 60 FPS. We are continuing on with our legacy games, so to speak, the games that I actually never got to play. So we're doing Gears of War 4, and then we're eventually going to do Gears 5. But one of the things that really strikes me about these titles is how absolutely beautiful they are. I know this is a very older game, or at least a decade old, right? It's one generation console away from modern consoles, and the minute that I booted this thing up, I was like, wow, this is pretty incredible. This game really holds up even by modern standards. The only thing that was a little bit kind of jarring for me is it's not in 4K, which is fine. It's not a big deal, but I think for me the biggest point of contention here is that it wasn't in 60 FPS. It's running at a solid 30 FPS, which is really fine. But coming from Ghost Recon Wildlands and doing the Last Rites DLC, and then transitioning into a solid 30, those extra 30 frames per second really do make a difference. But nevertheless, I'm very impressed with this title, and I have to say, it has been so long since I played a Gears game, and getting into this, I remember why I loved it so much. The visceral experience, the gunplay, the sounds, everything, the kind of like pop and lock game mechanics that they have, all of those dynamics just came back to me and really kind of, how can I put this? It really lit a fire under my ass as to why I really love this title in the first place. As I understand it, this is kind of telling, or this intro is telling the prequel of sorts. I don't know if you call it a prequel, but before Emergence Day, and in honor, obviously, of E-Day, which is the new Gears that is coming out, I think, later on in a couple of months. Actually, it's pretty close to launch. But definitely, this is something that I wanted to get into, and I'm really excited about this. It was like second nature getting into this in terms of the game mechanics. It took me about a minute, and then my muscle reflexes kicked in, and then I just, it all came back to me, which was really awesome. So this is kind of like catching you up to everything that had happened. Initially, it starts off with this kind of like somber ceremony, and somebody's giving a speech about events that had happened with Marcus Phoenix, and I know that he plays into it a little bit, or his son. I'm still not sure yet because I haven't quite gotten there yet, but oh my gosh, look at the gruesome animations there. But right now you're just playing as a normal cog. He's just a normal kind of nameless soldier at this point, and I think that's pretty cool because it is telling some kind of mission that happened before the events of the Locust hordes and whatnot, when man, I think, was still battling each other, and there was these different factions battling over resources or something like that. I'm not exactly sure about the lore, and I'm sure many of you guys who have played the game or know the lore extensively will comment in the comment section and kind of let me know what's going on here. Nevertheless, I think it was very fascinating, and it was a pretty good intro level, which is something that I really like. Even though you're kind of like this nameless cog, it doesn't take away or doesn't deviate from the visceral experience that you're having here. And this first level was pretty awesome. It's a nice introductory level to kind of ease you in, especially for someone like me who hasn't played a Gears War in like at least 10 or 12 years, not since Gears 3. I loved the original Gears, played Gears 2, played Gears 3. I am going to do the re-upload on the PS5, which is something that still blows my mind, that a Gears of War game is actually going to be on a PS5, and I'm gonna pick that up as soon as possible. But these are one of the mechanics that I think was pretty awesome. This pop and lock, and then you're running to the next defilade position, which is pretty cool. Defilade, listen to me, I sound like a military expert or something like that. But you're running to the next position. It's frantic and it's frenetic, especially when you're taking on these gun placements, which is really cool. I have to say, I don't know if I remember this correctly, but this is something that I noticed almost immediately. But the sound in this game is just beautiful. I mean, it is like weighty, and thick, and everything feels clunky and heavy. And it's one of the things that I think I liked about the original Gears. You have to remember, Gears was such a unique title. It really cemented the 360 as this powerhouse, because the graphics were incredible, the gameplay, there was nothing like it in terms of a third-person shooter way back when, and I thought that was just really, really freaking cool, and something that made me think, man, this is a franchise in the making. This is something that is going to have lasting power for a very long time, and I thought that was really impressive. One thing I wanted to mention in terms of this whole kick about preserving media is the title that I'm playing right here, and this took a long time to upload. What I didn't realize was the fact that this title actually has all 4 games in it. Right, so it has the original Gears, Gears 2, Gears 3, and then of course Gears 4. I think it was part of like a bonus pack or something. So there's a lot of bang for your buck, so to speak, and there's a lot of value here, which is really cool. But again, I can technically, if I wanted to, play all those games on this single disc, which is pretty amazing in terms of, I don't know how they were able to get all this storage on here, but they did it.
Let's go! Laps up ahead! Take them out!
Now you might be wondering here why I'm not clobbering this guy into the ground, just doing like a melee attack. Is because I completely forgot how to do this. It's one of the things that didn't click in my muscle memory. So basically the guy was knocking me out, and I had run out of ammo. So yeah, little things, I mean, little by little things come back to you. That's probably why I was letting him beat the crap out of me. Not by choice, it's just I simply did not remember how to do it. Also, the chain grenade, I know that you use the D-pad to activate it, but I forgot that you had to use the right and left triggers to kind of like aim and then just throw the damn thing. Again, you have to remember I'm going in between these consoles, playing the PS5 and playing Wildlands, and then coming to the Xbox, and there is a bit of a learning curve with all of the button layouts and whatnot.
Nice to see you're not dead, Private. You too, Major. Let's take out these Indies so we can get on with the goddamn show. Yes, sir.
I don't know if you guys caught that sound effect right now, but it sounded like the bandolier coming out of a Garand. It was like a ping! And for those of you who are gun enthusiasts who have shot Garands, and I've shot them my whole life, basically, at the end of the ammo, it's like you start shooting and it has this like very distinctive ping once you're out of ammo, and I just heard that in the weapon that I was firing, which I thought it was a nice little touch. It was pretty cool.
Good one. Keep it up.
Okay, Route does a situational awareness. You were standing next to a big red-ass Donkey Kong barrel, which you knew if somebody hits it, it's gonna light it up. So it's just, I wasn't paying attention, and I actually almost got killed there.
Got him. Lab secure, Major. I have eyes, Private. Now, let's get those plans. Needed that. Just in time. That lab isn't going to open itself, Gears.
This sergeant, or whatever his rank is, I think he's a non-com, but he's got to be the epitome of every trope and every stereotype of a sergeant in the military. It was absolutely hilarious to hear him talking. I don't even think in the Army anybody talks like that, in the Marines or whatever these cogs are. But it was just funny to hear him talking. It actually made me smirk and made me laugh every time I heard him. He was hilarious. You know what I mean? In his like ubiquity, I guess. But it was funny to listen to the way that he spoke.
Hold your position.
One thing I did have to get really adjusted to, again, coming off of Wildlands, and the kind of precise nature of the aiming down the sights and whatnot, and going from third person to first person. So Gears is only a third person shooter, but it is very floaty in that it overcompensates. So I don't know if I had to adjust the sensitivity of the aiming overall, but I did have to get used to that, especially when you're doing a turret system. If you noticed, there was something really funny. You hear them calling these enemy soldiers indies. I wonder if they meant that they're like an independent faction, or they're trying to branch off from the kind of like main government. I'm not exactly sure. Again, I don't know what the lore is here. I just remember them or the cogs referring to them as indies.
Oh, we got mortars incoming.
Can I suggest you run, Major?
To the beach! Go, go, go!
This was something very interesting to me. If you guys remember that I played AC Mirage and there was a lot of screen tearing, look at how much is going on right now. Okay, again, this is a very much older game, and there's so much going on, and there's not stuttering, there's no drops in frame rate, there's no screen tearing, there's none of that stuff going on, and the performance is running perfectly, which really is a testament to the programming here. And I don't know if this is an indictment to newer games, but man, they really knew what the hell they were doing back then, because there was no performance issues at all here, and there was a shit ton of stuff that was being thrown at you in terms of the mortar fire, the particle effects, and then hearing your other squad mates running.
A new horror. A new enemy. A new war.
Control, be advised.
This for me was actually very sobering in terms of the overall narrative of Gears. So as you guys know, if you're a fan of the channel, if you've been watching my reviews on the main channel, you know that I'm a big Robotech Macross fan. And this was something very interesting to me, because essentially what is being explained here, what's being explored here, is that they have finally made peace amongst each other, right, in terms of man. And Admiral Global, in the first episode, I think it was called Booby Trap of Robotech or Macross, it's really Robotech, right? He says, you know, something to the effect of, we finally kind of like attained peace in our lifetime after a global war event, and now we face annihilation from hostile forces, or hostile alien forces. And I thought that was pretty amazing here, because this is exactly what's going on. So they finally kind of like strike this peace accord among the factions, and then, you know, literally months later or something like that, or a couple years later, you have this emergence day where they have these locust hordes that were living inside of the earth, and these like kind of like bug creatures and stuff like that. You're gonna see one of them here. I remember in the original game, the first time I saw this thing and tried to fight it, I was like, holy shit, how in the hell am I supposed to take that thing down? And it was basically a bullet sponge, and I wasn't sure how I was going to take it down until, of course, they gave us the ultimate solution, which I thought was pretty awesome.
On it! Soldier, secure that hammer!
And if you want to know what the quick, easy button is to any solution, or any problem I should say, the quick solution is, yes, the infamous Hammer of Dawn. This thing is guaranteed to basically change the disposition, stop the aggression, and nullify any attack ever. This thing is freaking awesome. It's just this beam, this freaking laser that comes in and like devastates everything, which is really awesome. I thought this was one of the coolest weapons, and if you remember, the first time we used the Hammer of Dawn in the original game was on that Berserker. That thing terrified me, man. That thing, when I was younger, I was so freaking terrified of the Berserker. If you guys remember that thing, it looks kind of like a Wendigo. This is this massive thing that's unstoppable. It breaks through walls, it breaks through brick, stone, whatever. Nothing's stopping this goddamn thing, right? And the only way that you can take that thing down, and I'm actually eager, when I get the reloaded version on PS5, I'm eager to fight that thing again, because that was such a terrifying experience. I remember Marcus Phoenix saying, hey man, don't make noise, this thing is like sensitive to sounds, so the minute that it hears anything, even your breath, the thing's gonna come charging at you. So that was a very visceral, kind of like mini boss fight, and of course, the only way to take that damn thing down was the Hammer of Dawn.
What the hell are those things?
What's your name, Corporal?
Kim, sir.
Lieutenant Stroud and I need an escort. Congratulations, you're it.
Colonel, we need to get inside. Now.
I've got the code for the door, Colonel.
Well, good for you, son.
Hold these stairs with that hammer. I'll be back when I can. Oh man, this is bad.
All right, you heard the corporal. Don't let him inside.
They're coming right at us. Use the hammer.
Now, I can't recall this because it was such a long time ago. I don't know if the original Gears had this option, but this is the first time that I ever like held off a wave and a horde of the locusts with the Hammer of Dawn. And if you notice, look at how precise it is. It's actually tracking, the laser beam is actually tracking the laser finder, the range finder, which I thought was freaking awesome. And I am literally making butter out of these freaking locust hordes, which is freaking cool. It was one of the most less challenging fights, I should say, because you had this like godlike weapon, but it was definitely the funnest. You know what I mean? It wasn't a difficult fight by any means, because you're so OP, right? But my god, was it fun, just like literally vaporizing these locust hordes. And it's wave after wave. Now, I have a thing, this, that spider thing, and actually, I think it flies as well. That spider thing was such a pain in the ass. In the original game, it would always kill me, because it launched like this rocket out of its like eye, or it had a turret, a rocket turret. But when you have the Hammer of Dawn, whatever, this thing is like nothing. You just one shot, one kill, which is really freaking awesome. This was a really cool like intro level, and I love the fact that you get to use the Hammer of Dawn on your little bastards.
Gears, I'm sorry, but the Hammer of Dawn just went offline.
By nightfall, hundreds of thousands were dead. Emergence Day had earned its name. Like many of you, I was only a child then. It was a dark, terrible time, and our victory was in no way assured.
I also want to comment on the overall level design and color palette of this game, because it does go from these like intense, you know, firefights, and they're very monotone and very dark and dingy. It goes to like very bright sections, as you saw in this battle in the city, and then it goes to like this hellscape that looks very much like Doom, right? Which I think is really cool in terms of the overall level design, color palette, art direction, and whatnot. This is I think this part of it is taking place 17 years after Emergence Day, and if I'm not mistaken, and I don't know if the chronology is right here, but this is, I think, leading up to the events of the end of Gears 3, if I'm not mistaken, when Marcus Phoenix, I don't know, he did something to unleash some kind of beam or force shield or something like that. I can't remember. It's been a long time, guys. This was freaking awesome for me. When I got the Lancer back and you're able to slice through these bastards, one of the signatures of Gears of War is that Lancer with the chainsaw. I mean, it's freaking iconic. It's up there with, like, you know, Samus's blaster, you know, Mega Man's Mega Buster, whatever the hell they want to call it, the Master Sword. The Lancer is now iconic. It's a staple of an Xbox exclusive at this point. And the gunplay, I mean, just hearing that Lancer was just beautiful. It's visceral, it's weighty. I've talked about this before, and man, it's just, I love the Lancer. I don't understand why I don't own one, or a replica of it, but I might look into that. This is just awesome. One thing I forgot about the chainsaw with the Lancer, it does take a while to like activate it, so you really should have it activated before you attempt to go and slice through one of these Locust Horde cronies. Otherwise, they're gonna basically beat the crap out of you. you know, I really like this level because there's a lot of going on here, and you could see, again, the performance. One of the things that really annoyed the hell out of me was this British chick. She was freaking driving me nuts. Her accent was like excruciating. I'm like, oh my god, please shut up before I shoot you. She was so annoying. I don't know if you guys had the same feeling about this, but she was just annoying. She's trying to get you to go to the next turret, and it was driving me nuts.
All right, someone mount that turret and throw some hell down there.
Holy shit, there's hundreds of them!
I see it. Here, open fire. Come on, you big ugly son of a bitch. Show me what you got.
Think we can't hold him up any longer!
Just keep firing.
So this is actually what I was alluding to, and I can't remember exactly what this was, but Marcus Phoenix and his team of cogs intervened somehow. I don't know, it was some kind of MacGuffin that affected, it was like a weapon of mass destruction that only affected the locust hordes and killed them somehow, some kind of virus. I don't know, I can't remember, such a long time ago. I'm sure you guys know more than I do, but this is what I was talking about, and this was leading up to the events of Gears 3 where they finally prevailed against the locust hordes, or something like that. I don't know.
He did it.
How dearly I wish Sergeant Phoenix could be with us here today. Stop and think about the men and women whose sacrifices guaranteed our survival. Thanks to them, we fought through the long twilight. We built a new prosperity. The world the new cog has ensured knows no war, no suffering. It's a world of safety, of family. A world, finally, at
Now granted, the opening cutscene for this game was this guy looking at a monitor in this kind of like Batman style cave. He's some bald guy that kind of looks like Lex Luthor. I don't know what the hell is exactly going on here, but then again, I didn't actually remember what happened from Gears 3. I don't know, it was a long time ago, but I suspect this is Marcus Phoenix. I think that's him because apparently this is his son. And the funny thing about this is that the guy sounds like Nathan Fillion. It seems like during this time, Nathan Fillion was in a lot of video games doing the voice acting. And this is funny because I really like this team, and I'm going to explain why. The voice acting here is absolutely amazing. Especially for voice captures back in the day. They feel like really fleshed out characters. They don't feel like caricatures. The dialogue seems natural. It doesn't feel like it's forced or contrived. It's not very Aaron Sorkin-esque. I've already gone into why I don't like Aaron Sorkin's writing. People don't talk like that. If you guys, and everybody references the newsroom, so here's my problem with the newsroom. The newsroom has these, it's not even dialogue at this point. Or when I was watching it, it just seemed like it was a bunch of contrived speeches. It was like one speech after another, and people don't talk like that. I think one of the cringiest parts of that show, right? And I love Sam Waterston, and I think Jeff Daniels and Olivia Munn, and the cast was really great, right? But the writing was just so like cringe-worthy. I can't even explain. Well, actually, I'm going to give you an example. So they had that episode when they killed Osama bin Laden, right? And then the friend who's kind of flaky, the friend of the main girl, whatever, the one that was in love with that dude. I don't know, the characters are interchangeable at this point, it doesn't really matter. But I remember she goes to the newsroom and this is what she actually says. She's like, any members of SEAL Team 6 that are here in New York City tonight are going to get much ass. She said they're going to get much ass. I'm like, what? Who the fuck? Who even talks like that, man? It was the cringiest shit ever. I didn't watch the show that much, but after hearing that episode, And then the whole Rudy thing when they're turning in their paychecks, I was like, oh god, give me a fucking break. It was so stupid. Anyways, this is the actual, the real intro of the game. And it's basically, I guess it's a couple years after, you know, what happens when the Locust Hordes are defeated. There's something about the Coalition. And apparently there's some AI bots that are making these civilizations or something like that. That I noticed there's a lot more up, and there it is, the officially the logo. We've finally gotten to the logo, which is Gears of War 4. So they're obviously using old technology. They're using some variant of a horse or something like that to push this cart. And apparently the weather patterns are really unpredictable, and you have this kind of like cyclonic thing that's happening that has lightning. And you know what? You know, we don't quit fucking up the planet. This is the kind of shit that we might see. I mean, whatever, I'm being hyperbolic a little bit and exaggerated, but yeah. Anyways, so one of the things that struck me is the difference in the color palette here. It's very vibrant, and it's actually very picturesque and beautiful. It actually almost reminded me of Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion, which I had recently played it, in terms of the foliage and the textures and stuff like that. There was something that I had to do that I and this wind, this cyclonic wind, is constantly pushing you back. But I didn't realize that you had to do something like to knock out these tubings or whatever the hell they were in order to get to the next level. Right. But to go back to my original point, the writing is done very well. I love when writing in video games is very organic and people talk like they would normally talk. They're not constantly giving speeches or trying to get... Oh shit. I forgot that this happened. Those tubings kind of hit my ass. Anyways, they don't talk like they're trying to give a speech or a sermon or anything like that. I think writing in video games has to be organic, otherwise you kind of lose it, and then they just become tropes in video games, right? It's very jarring if it doesn't make sense and if it doesn't flow very well. And speaking of tropes in video games, just because I had just mentioned this right now. So yesterday I was on my feeds, and for some reason this video came up about Anita Sarkeesian, and we all know who she is, and it was actually a very interesting video. And it's actually really relevant right now when I think about it, because I think about what video games were back then and then what they are now, and all of this intervention with inclusivity and wokeism and stuff like that. Now, granted, I've talked about this before, and the term woke doesn't mean what it means. But the whole central thesis of this video that I was watching, which was very fascinating, and I look at things from an academic. I'm actually a professor. I've been 20 years in higher education, right? So the funny thing about this is that when you're looking at this from an academic standpoint, I think Anita Sarkeesian probably did more harm to the gaming industry as we know it today than any possible like DRM policy or any kind of full digital policy, more than Sony and more than what Xbox tried to do. And Bungie is probably most responsible for this, from what I recall. So for those of you who don't know who Anita Sarkeesian is, she was this like neo-feminist or something like that. She had this this series of videos that I think she kickstarted that was called Feminist Frequency, all predicated on bullshit, of course, because, I mean, this is a relatively young woman, and I've been gaming ever since I can walk. I mean, and I've talked about this before. So basically, I started off in the arcade, and then the NES, 16-bit, 32-bit, everything in between, whatever, you know, my credentials are there, right? But the idea that she, and I think it was called Tropes versus Women or something like that. You can argue that there are tropes in video games that are, you know, the typical hero fantasy where you're saving the princess and stuff like that. I don't think that was like an intentional thing, you know, to go out and be misogynistic or anything like that, or because you hated women or whatever the hell. It might have been more because the simplicity of those stories had to be because of the limitations of the hardware, right? And even in the software, you had a very simple story. You would go enter a castle, as in, like if you want to use Mario as an example, you would go into the castle, you would save Princess Peach, whatever, you'd be victorious, rinse and repeat, right? But I think that had a lot more to do with the limitations of the hardware and the sprites and, you know, how much information or RAM, whatever, that you had available to run these games. It had little, if anything, to do with the fact that you know, there was this trope against women and then misogyny, and it was, you know, anti-feminism or whatever the hell. I mean, she's completely full of shit, and I think we all know that she's completely full of shit just because, you know, she got caught. She anytime somebody says that their stuff is well researched or they're an expert in anything, you should let your body of work dictate that. You shouldn't have to keep saying or proclaiming that you're an expert or that you're you know, your body of work or whatever. Okay, that's academics 101. Okay, I have 2 master's degrees, I have 2 bachelor's degrees. Okay, so like I have a long career in higher education, and her thesis would not pass. I mean, I don't even know how they graduated her with her master's thesis, because it's completely absurd, right? And I actually read a little bit of it, and I was like, oh my god, who the hell greenlit this? Not so much with the subject, that the structure is wrong, the conclusions are speculative at best, and I didn't really see any empirical data there that supports her thesis, but that's a whole nother video that we can go into. The point of the matter is that she was grifting, and she realized that she can make a lot of money basically grifting off of, you know, this grievance that people had. There was never any attack against women in video games, granted after the fact. I mean, there was always assholes that criticized her, and those are not human beings, those are stupid man children. But the problem is that, like everything in academia, it's subject to peer review, right? And the problem is she didn't want to debate anybody, and she didn't want to have credible academics punching holes into her central thesis. And every time she did, she said, oh, we were just being misogynistic, or we were trying to attack her as, you know, for being a woman. And that was completely absurd. Anytime you publish something and you're calling yourself an expert, well, you need to peer review that, okay? It needs to be vetted, it needs to be peer reviewed. Other experts have to consult on this and see if you can stand, if your, you know, what your central thesis is can stand up to scrutiny. And unfortunately, she didn't want to do that, because anytime anybody challenged her, she said it was, you know, obviously she fell back on the shield of misogyny. Sadly and very disappointingly, a lot of people in the gaming industry, particularly I think the writers of The Last of Us, just kind of made this girl their kind of demagogue, and that's very disappointing. But we all know that she's full of shit. Okay, and the reason that we know is because she actually got caught in a video saying that she doesn't even like video games, and that she had to learn a lot about video games. And then in a lot of these press conferences that she's had, she basically said, oh yeah, I've been gaming my whole life. So 2 things cannot be, you know, the truth, right? So she's completely full of shit and a grifter, and that's my opinion, and that's always been my opinion. You know, if I were to have a debate with her, I can poke holes into her central thesis very easily. When she talks about, you know, there's no representation. Well, I'm sorry to say this, but there has always been representation of strong female protagonists in video games and in social media. Okay, Samus Aran, for God's sakes. I mean, she's one of the most badass bounty hunters, and basically a flagship character for Nintendo is a woman. Okay, you have Lara Croft, you have Bayonetta. I mean, granted, these were later figures, but early on, you know, characters like Samus Aran, I mean, these are badass figures, and they were absolutely amazing. Sypha from the Castlevania series. I mean, I can go on and on here, but I think you get the point. And I'm only bringing this up is because when we're looking back at these video games and what the industry was before, when you could just make a game for the purposes of entertainment and stop interjecting so much politics in it and so much agenda, I think games were a lot better. Can you introduce those things? Absolutely. You can tell a story. It's not a problem with it. But when it becomes the focus, instead of like having an experience that is visceral, then that begins to dilute that product, right? And I can use the example of The Last of Us, which that first one was absolutely outstanding. And Ellie was an interesting character. I mean, Ellie right there, you have this protagonist that you get to play with. The relationship between Ellie and Joel was fascinating because it just was. It wasn't trying to say something. It wasn't trying to give us a sermon. It wasn't trying to be preachy. It just was. And all culminating into that last level, which was, I mean, if you're a parent, and I've talked about this in my review of The Last of Us Part 2, But if you were a parent during that last mission, your parental instincts kicked in. I would have done anything and just wasted anybody, unalived anybody to save Ellie, because my parental instincts kicked in. And as a matter of fact, when I became a dad, it made it that much more powerful looking back at that day. I hope to do a retrospective on The Last of Us one day, because I think after you have children, it does change how powerful that game is for you, and that's my personal opinion. Because even now when I think about it, I get a little bit choked up thinking of my daughters, right? But this is why, I bring this up, because it's all coming full circle now, and many of the mistakes, because of this agenda that they had back in the day, has led to not only the moral bankruptcy of some of these companies, but the financial bankruptcies of some of these game studios, and I think they regret it. Honestly, I think Bungie definitely regrets it, and everybody else who was trying to jump on this train of making sure that people like Anita Sarkeesian had a voice. It's not to say that we want to drown out those voices, but there is a way to do things that is not completely absurd, and shifting that pendulum so far that it becomes to the point of just ridiculousness. And that's unfortunate. I wonder where the game industry is going to go now, apart from the other problems that it has with this all-digital media world that we want to go to, where we don't actually own anything. But when are we going to kind of like, I guess, right the ship from what had happened? And people like Arnita Sarkeesian really did a lot to damage this industry, and it's a real shame. And we're seeing the ramifications of those actions, and how the gaming industry embraced that so hard. We're seeing it even today. And just for a little levity, guys, because I don't want this to be so serious, so that we can have a good time while we're watching this. Her uncle sounds like one of my uncles that gets drunk on Christmas, which is really funny. Clearly, he's a Hispanic guy here, and I guess she's a female Hispanic. I don't know, but he does remind me of several of my uncles during Christmas that get a little too tipsy and hit the Corona bottles a little bit too much, and then basically try to tell me about the nuances and secrets of life that according to them and their experiences. One of the things that I wanted to mention about this is this game introduces kind of like a new weapon here, and it's some kind of electrical bolt shooter. I'm not sure what it is. It's like a rapid fire weapon. So you can see it here. I finally got the mechanics of the actual grenade, or the chain grenade, down pretty good here. You know what? The other thing that I really missed about Gears was the little mini game when you're reloading your weapons, which was really freaking cool. That was pretty innovative back then. So that basically when you're reloading, there's a little bar. Once it hits in the middle, you can get a perfect reload. If not, the weapon jams, and I thought that was pretty freaking cool. I loved doing that when I had played the initial game. I thought it was a really cool game mechanic, and it was nice to do that again. Again, it's been like, what, 10 or 12 years since I was able to play in that kind of mechanic, and eventually I got really good at it. This weapon is really cool. And I also like the designs of the mechs here, these guards, whatever they are, these little Timu Robocops. They were pretty cool in the way that you were taking them down there. The AI is pretty good for the most part. Sometimes they kind of just run into your fire. But for the most part, the AI was pretty good. They used some modicum of tactics and whatever. This is also something that I thought was noteworthy. And if you look at the textures, the game design, the color palette, I mean, look at the autumn leaves and the green, just the foliage, the cobblestone streets, even the water that's kind of pulling within those cobblestone streets was done very well. It feels very warm and homey, this level, given the world that you're in, that just had survived this locust horde, and basically civilization is kind of trying to rebuild at this point. But the attention to detail in terms of the streets and the buildings and the trees, it really lends itself to world building here and giving you a nice kind of perspective in terms of the overall art design here. I really like this level and how vibrant and beautiful it looked. Again, and if you've been watching the videos, a couple of months ago I did do the Oblivion remaster, and I actually never got to play Oblivion on 360. And so that was a welcome treat for me. And again, one of the arguments that I have for being able to preserve this media, if they hadn't remastered that, and I didn't, or I only own the 360, and I didn't have a copy of you know, Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion, then I would never be able to experience that. Granted, thank God that I waited, because I was able to play the remaster, which was faithfully done apparently and very beautiful. Sometimes it's difficult to go back to have those old kind of game mechanics and looking at the graphics and stuff like that. Like for me personally, and I don't think I can go back to something like Daggerfall or something like that, because it's just too rudimentary for me. So I don't think it was funny the way I kicked that. That was those little bots that are electrical. Sorry, I'm interrupting myself, but I thought it was funny that you can actually kick those little bots. But I don't think that I can do something like that. Now, that actually lends me into something else. So there has been some rumblings, and apparently there are some updates for Elder Scrolls 6. I don't know what officially it's going to be called, but I know that one of the content creators that I occasionally listen to, Maddie, online, and I think he's a pretty trusted source. That guy reminds me of like the typical 90s kid, just his look. He looks like a really cool guy though. But apparently Elder Scrolls 6 is a lot further along in development than we realize, and if that's the case, that's very exciting. Apparently Asha Rangappa, she's actually another person, but the CEO of Xbox played like a full level of this the other day or something like that, and please correct me if I'm wrong. And apparently this game is a lot further along than we possibly realize, which is pretty exciting news. As I mentioned, I spent hours and hours inside of the Elder Scrolls 5 Skyrim. I mean, literally vacationed in Skyrim. There's so many great memories. I think I was still doing my second master's degree when I was playing a lot of Skyrim and working on my thesis and playing Skyrim just to kind of relax. I remember those days very vividly with fond memories. You know, I'd be working on my thesis for my second master's degree, and then I would come home, relax, get into Skyrim, get a Sapporo, because I do love Japanese beer, and I would just hang out in Skyrim. And I'm hoping, and now I'm actually pretty excited that maybe we'll get an experience that will rival what was Skyrim for me in this next iteration. So that's some very exciting stuff. Definitely. And of course, you know, you have the GTA that's coming up, so many other titles that are coming up, and particularly as it relates to Gears, the E-Day Gears, I'm very excited about that. So it is a good time for the gaming industry. I thought this was a little bit weird, this propaganda here. They had to make babies and stuff like that. I know that there was a little jab at some form of feminism right now, where she's like, yeah, listen, I don't mind having babies, it's just I hate being told that I have to have one. Okay, so see, that's cool. See, that's very smartly done. That's a very subtle kind of like social commentary without having to be preachy or you know, assuming that your audience is stupid, right? Because you get your point across when you can be clever. I think satirization, being satirical and satirizing and being you know, socially conscious can be done very well if it's smart. If you're just beating people over the head and being condescending, it's not smart. It's actually probably the laziest form. But to get back to what I was saying, I know I digress a little bit, but it is a very exciting time in terms of the overall content that's being produced in terms of video games. You know, I started off this series because I wanted to say something about, you know, preserving media, and you know, it goes on to a much better, greater issues about being able to own the things that we buy. But I hope that through whatever means, our voices, our social media presence, if you have a channel, you're talking about this topic, never let it go. And then we keep pressing for this. Hopefully they can, you know, reverse, or Sony will reverse this policy, because it will affect a lot of the gaming industry. It'll affect jobs. It'll affect logistics. I mean, so many things will be affected by the decisions that Sony's making right now. And it's kind of ironic, because this is the company that actually burned Xbox because of their DRM bullshit so many years ago, and now they are trying to do it. And again, if you watch my previous videos, this all has to do with corporate greed and shareholders that, like Anita Sarkeesian, really don't have any stake in where the video game industry is. They just want to make money. She just wants to grift. I don't think she actually gives a shit about the gaming industry and this subculture that we have You know, some of us grew up with these games. We have emotional attachments to them. We like to have them in our libraries. We like to decorate, you know, our spaces with some of the things that we had passion for growing up as kids, right? You know, I've always said that some of the things that we should leave behind in childhood, we don't, like our fears and our apprehensions and you know, some of the traumas that we had, and all the things that we should be taking into adulthood that are considered childish, like your sense of wonder, that sense of nostalgia, the things that you had growing up that you thought that made the world pretty remarkable. We don't take them because we think they're childish. So this is kind of an example of that. Like, we should look fondly on those things and, you know, apply some of the lessons, the moral lessons, and the kind of you know, moral compass that we in investing in these heroes and these characters and some of the lessons that they taught us, we should bring those things into adulthood. So this is kind of a perfect example of what I was talking about when it comes to the dialogue. It's natural and it's funny. The timing is funny.
Look, that's state-of-the-art cog technology. I don't think... Oh, okay.
You two go get that fabricator. We'll watch the door.
I'm going too.
Oh, no, you're not. It's safer out here. Door's closing, young one. Okay? God damn it.
Obviously, he's a very overprotective uncle. Like I said, every time I hear this guy talk, he reminds me of one of my uncles on the holidays.
Okay, welcome to cart control. Let's call up the lift and get started.
Are all the construction hubs this big?
Yeah, exactly this big, exactly this shape, exactly this layout.
All right, now we go to the storage base. Del, you get us there. Kate, come with me.
On it. Have fun down there, you two.
We're aboard. Now send us down. Hey, is there a problem?
No. Just figuring out these controls. Ah, there we go.
Hey, what's going on up there? We losing power?
Working on it.
Oh, that's a lot of dBs. Hey, let's keep things moving, all right?
Yeah, I'm trying. These controls are confusing as hell. Uh-oh.
Now what?
Okay, I'm not gonna lie, when this thing happened, like, I almost dropped my controller, and you know that pain that you get when you're on a roller coaster ride? I think this happens to guys. I talked about this in my Halo review, or my Halo playthrough, and like, it feels like your nuts are in your throat. That's exactly what happened to me.
Kate, just remind me to let you handle the controls next time, okay?
I heard that!
Eyes up, there's a fabricator. Hey, help me carry this thing. All right, come on. Nice and easy.
You guys know that I am never a big fan of escort missions, especially when they have waves and waves of enemies coming at you. I had that experience in a couple videos ago when I was playing Wildlands, when I finally got that Llorona, and we were getting out of that freaking gold mine, and then there was waves and waves of her followers that were attacking us, which was a real pain in the ass. mostly because I was basically one-arming it, so I was holding La Llorona, and then I was basically shooting with a handgun, so it was a real pain in the ass. And the only way that you can like have some modicum of defense is you would have to let her go. So this is something similar that happened, although not as bad, because you're not holding on to this fabrication machine. Actually, it's helping you because it does fabricate weapons and ammo, and obviously you got waves and waves of things. Of course, there's, you know, the thing that happens with the guys trying to like get us up to the top again, and we're basically holding off hordes and hordes of these enemies until he can figure out what the hell to push up or whatever the hell he's going through.
Now, what's your status? I'm hacking back into the system.
Keep coming!
Just hang on, I think I got it. Hey, get out of the way! Hell yeah! I'm bringing you up! Gotta be joking. Down! Hey! This isn't easy, man! Just hurry up and fix it. Shepard's incoming! Targets engaged. Using all lawful targets. That's fine. Done. Ah, shit, I'm out!
Unlawful citizen spotted.
Ah! Locked and loaded. Now, close the security door. I'm trying. It says no access. Eat that.
Unit relocating now. Assaulting. He's aid.
More of them. Yeah.
Moving now.
They're flanking us.
Commence detainment.
Now, what's your status? I'm hacking back into the system. Just hang on, I think I got it.
I got him!
Cease and desist.
Fabricator recharged!
Unit attacking.
All right, who's next? Destroyed.
Show hostile target
Yes,
spotted.
I'm back in the system. Anyone need a ride up? Yes, please. Oh, you're killing us down here. No, I'm trying not to.
Cease and desist.
Wait, whoa, Del, you just missed our stop.
Yeah, I know! Shit just got real in here! I can use a hand!
Hey, we gotta back him up.
Little help, please!
Another jet.
Moving. Moving now. Engaging targets. Hostile targets acquired.
There's too many of them!
Fine now.
Unit relocating.
Oh, shit, I'm out.
Attacking. We are authorized to use force.
I'm good. Let's get you back down.
Yeah. That'd be nice. All right, so let's get out of here. Come on, help me with this fabricator. Hey, help me carry this thing.
Hey, you remember what you told Rain about getting a fabricator, JD?
Oh, please, remind me.
In and out, simple job. Direct quotes.
Means it can only get easier from here, right? Let's get back to Oscar.
Who's gonna be very, very...
Oscar, we got the fabricate. Hi.
Lieutenant, you've been busy.
Now, admittedly,
Mr. Jim.
I don't know who this person is.
Looking
I don't know what's happening here. I don't know what their interactions are. But this has got to be one of the funniest intros to any antagonist that there is. Just watch
And they're
this.
armed.
They are. And here's what's interesting. Unlike you two, they actually follow orders.
What is this? You looking for a repeat of Settlement 2?
A highly successful operation. It's now our most compliant settlement.
Look, our village hasn't had power in weeks. We need this fabricator.
I don't care about the goddamn fabricator. You're taking my people.
What?
Don't forget, I know what you were trained to do.
Bye?
Not only was that shit so unexpected, but it made me laugh my ass off. I thought that was freaking funny. And that's one of the great comedic timings, or great comedic things about this game. Anyways, I think we're going to stop it here, guys. I know that we've gone a little bit over what I wanted to do. I'm trying to make these videos a little bit more palatable. Maybe do 30-minute segments. It just went on for a little while because the level went on for a little while, so it was pretty extensive. Anyways, guys, we're going to continue on with Gears of War 4. I'm definitely going to be doing more content for this, and I'm going to eventually finish the game. And it does feel good to be able to finish a freaking game. I can't tell you how important that is, to be able to sit down, have a linear experience, and not be so bloated with open world stuff. There is a place for open worlds, but sometimes you just want to sit down and have just this experience. Anyways, this has been another episode of Raudeza Plays, and I'll see you on the next one, guys. Have a good one.
E3DR1 activated.